I mentioned the possibility of the Philadelphia Phillies signing and bringing in veteran pitcher Walker Buehler. In yesterday's video, he was released by the Boston Red Sox the other day. Free agent, the Phillies are taking a chance on the veteran for the rest of the season. For the playoffs, he is eligible to pitch in the playoffs with the Phillies since he signed before September 1st, which is today. Walker Buehler is expected, he was assigned to AAA Lehigh Valley, expected to make a start there, and then the Phillies are planning on using a 6-man rotation moving forward through this last month of September with Walker Buehler in that rotation. We'll see how he does. Obviously hasn't had a great year there in Boston. He was expected to be a pretty big piece in the rotation. A lot of success in prior years with the Dodgers. Just hasn't worked out for him this year in Boston. Maybe a fresh start with the Phillies is all he needs. He definitely has the talent. He's a 2-time All-Star, 2-time World Series champion, success in the playoffs. So it could be a very underrated move by the Phillies and a very important move for them as well, especially come playoff time, especially with the veteran Zach Wheeler, obviously no longer in the picture with that injury he's dealing with, and he's out for the season. Now the Phillies, it was good to see them bounce back, win those first 3 games of that 4-game series against the Atlanta Braves at home. Obviously, they were coming off that sweep against the Mets up there in Citi Field, so that was a tough series. They bounced back. That's what you like to see out of a team like that. They're never out of it things. They're always in it, and they got those 3 wins to start the series. Unfortunately, could not complete the 4-game sweep, but nonetheless, 3 out of 4 is incredible, especially, like I said, coming off a very down, very pathetic almost performance in that 3-game series sweep of the Mets. Unfortunately, the Phillies lost that series finale against the Braves at home at Citizens Bank Park last night on Sunday Night Baseball by a score of 3-1. And again, the Phillies did end up still winning that series 3-1. However, tonight, starting in Milwaukee on the road, very good team there in Milwaukee. First place in their division, best record in the National League, I believe the best record in Major League Baseball. It's a 3-game road series there in Milwaukee against the Brewers. 4:10 local start here against them with Taijuan Walker on the mound for the Phillies. They are off tomorrow, and then they finish that 3-game series on Wednesday and Thursday before heading to Miami for another road series and then heading back home for a huge 4-game series against the New York Mets. Welcome to Phillies Daily, everybody. I'm your host, Mike Henley. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, and subscribe for more Phillies content right here on Phillies Daily. The Phillies did have opportunities yesterday in that loss to the Braves on Sunday Night Baseball, most notably in the 3rd inning, probably their best shot there, especially earlier in the ball game to get things going. Unfortunately, they couldn't capitalize. It's been an ongoing issue with this team trying to hit with runners in scoring position, coming up in those clutch moments. Obviously, they do at times, but has been a pretty bad issue for them, and they have to get better if they want any shot at trying to make a deep playoff run and trying to win a World Series. You're going to be facing better teams in the playoffs. It's better pitching, starting pitching, relievers. So you have to come through in these clutch situations, especially with a veteran lineup, firepower type of lineup like the Phillies have. They couldn't do it yesterday in that loss to the Braves. They had bases loaded with just 1 out in the 3rd inning. Obviously, that run 90 feet away, a lot of different things can happen. Hit the ball into the outfield, sack fly, pass ball, anything. It's a grounder, who knows. A lot of things can happen to score that run. The Phillies had a great shot too. Kyle Schwarber, one of their best hitters, obviously. He was up with those bases loaded, 1 out. Struck out looking, and then Bryce Harper, there were other top hitter there in the lineup. He came up and he grounded up the middle. Unfortunately, the Braves were shifted that way. Usually it'd be a base hit, score a run or 2, but the defender was right there, and it was a ground out to end the inning. Phillies failed to score with bases loaded, 1 out, and the inconsistency with runners in scoring position continues here in 2025, as I had mentioned, and they ended up losing that ball game 3-1. Now, another obviously huge issue with this team here in 2025, although show some kind of signs of life every once in a while, but the bullpen, we all know, has been a major weakness here this season for the Phillies. They have some good guys there. Obviously, Joan Duran there in the back end. Jose Alvarado has his good moments. Ryan Kirkring has his good moments. Same with Matt Strahm, Tanner Banks, David Robertson. But it's been way too inconsistent, way more inconsistent than you'd like to see out of them as of late, especially with it being a little bit better as of late now since that Duran trade. But still, we saw Ryan Kirkring and Jose Alvarado both struggle last night in that loss to the Braves. And really, especially Kirkring, he has been struggling as of late for the Phillies. He was very dominant earlier in the season, very reliable guy out there in the back end of the bullpen, especially before the trade for Duran. He was relied on 8th innings, 9th innings to get the job done for the Phillies, especially when Jose Alvarado was also still out with that 80-game suspension. Orion Kirkring had a 0.87 ERA back in the month of May, and then he followed that up with a 0.82 ERA for the month of June. So just dominant stuff there earlier in the season for Kirkring. But however, he has struggled as of late, as I said, a 3.86 ERA in the month of July, which isn't horrible, but still, as a reliever, a little bit high there, especially compared to his months of May and June, both being sub-1 ERAs. And then in August, obviously it's over now with yesterday being the last game of August, Kirkring had a 4.63 ERA, so that's a little bit higher than there in July. As I said, a little bit struggles as of late. Now, yesterday in that loss to the Braves, he did allow bases loaded with no outs late in the game in the 8th inning. He was replaced by Tanner Banks in a 1-0 game. The Phillies had the 1-0 lead there late in the game, but bases loaded, no outs. I mean, if you're a major league team and you can't score in that situation, then, you're in deep trouble. And the Braves obviously got the job done, only pushed across the 1 run there, though. Tanner Banks came in that tough situation. As I said, he's been very good for the Phillies in the bullpen this year in 2025. Was very good again last night, coming in that tough situation late in a ball game against your division rival. 1-0 game, bases loaded, no outs. He did allow a run to score off of a ground out, but other than that, the Phillies got out of it, still tied 1-1 there in the 8th inning. Unfortunately, they could not score to take a lead there in their half of the 8th inning. Jose Alvarado came in to start the 9th inning in that tied 1-1 game, trying to keep it that score so the Phillies could try to walk it off yet again like they did the other night in either the bottom of the 9th or in extra innings. However, Alvarado also struggled in that appearance last night against the Braves. He allowed an infield single and then a sacrifice bunt to start the inning, and then he allowed a go-ahead 2-run home run killer, momentum killer, dagger, you could say, to the Phillies. And the Phillies obviously ended up losing that ball game 3-1, failed to score in the bottom of the 9th inning. And Jose Alvarado, just tough outing, tough appearance for him. Same with Orion Kirkring. Obviously, two guys that are heavily relied on late in ball games in close situations. Alvarado is not going to be able to this year in the playoffs because that carries over for his suspension. But they really need Orion Kirkring to figure things out and get back to what he was doing earlier in the season to help out this bullpen overall, especially come playoff time in October. A lot of bad things that you don't want to see happen in that ballgame yesterday. Obviously, that late inning 2-run home run, Orion Kirkring, bases loaded, no outs there late in the game with just a 1-0 lead. It's just a little bit frustrating stuff. The Phillies not being able to score there in the 3rd inning as well, with the runners in scoring position with Schwarber and Harper both getting out in consecutive at-bats. But another thing you don't like to see, and it happened not too long ago as well, I believe during the Mets series, the Phillies had a runner picked off in the 5th inning. He was caught in a rundown there between 1st and 2nd. Great move by Luzardo. Great stuff that, you try to get out of that inning right there. They did have 1 out, so you weren't getting out of the inning, but still 1 out, 1 runner on. Had the guy picked off, dead to rights. Poor communication, poor throwing decision, poor fake attempt by the Phillies, by Bryson Stott and Bryce Harper, a part of that play. And then the runner ended up being safe at first because just, again, not good communication. You had to have good communication in that situation. You can't be faking out your teammates like Bryson Stott was kind of doing, pump faking Bryce Harper. And then obviously it just went by him. Runner at least was still safe at first, didn't get advanced to 2nd. But still, could have been 2 outs there in that 5th inning. Instead, still 1 out with the runner on. And the Phillies really were gifted an out there and couldn't come through. We obviously, as I said, saw that just a little bit ago too. I believe in the Mets series, Bryce Harper took way too long to throw the ball to Bryson Stott, I believe it was as well. Maybe Trey Turner. But still, at second base, and it ended up being a poor throw. Runner was safe. Even if he caught that ball back then on that game as well, he probably would have been safe. It was that close, and Bryce Harper's got to throw that ball sooner. Again, he was a part of a little bit of mistake there last night, again, in a rundown. Something they have to practice, something that's basic fundamental baseballs that Major League players should be able to handle with no problem. Again, safe at first. Should have been 2 outs with no runners on there in the 5th inning. However, It wasn't. And it just can't happen. Jesus Luzardo, luckily, had a very good game for the Phillies yesterday. He was on the mound for the start. He walked the next batter, which still just at 1 out. So there was 2 runners on, 1 out. But however, Luzardo came up huge, got 2 strikeouts to end the inning, and the Phillies got out of it without that mistake coming around to bite them in the butt and be a costly mistake at that. They did end up losing the game at the end of the game, but still, that could have been starting to spiral out of control, and that could have been a turning point for the Braves right there in the 5th inning. But shout out to Jesus Luzardo. He pitched a very good game yesterday. Those 2 big strikeouts in the 5th inning to help pick up his teammates after that poor play in the rundown. And overall, he looked really good against the Braves there on Sunday Night Baseball, pitching with some intensity in like a playoff atmosphere, almost feeling against the Braves. Braves are a great team this year in 2025, record-wise, but they still have very good players, and that's a tough team over there. Luzardo got the job done, helped the Phillies stay in the game, gave them a great chance to win that game. He went 6 2/3 innings, allowed just 2 hits. He did walk a batter, no earned runs in those 6 2/3 innings, and he had 7 strikeouts. I'm not going to say very good, but a better month of August it was for Jesus Luzardo. We all know he started his Phillies career terrifically after that trade in the offseason by the Marlins. One of the best pitchers in the National League. He was a National League early Cy Young candidate, then kind of fell apart as the months went on. Very inconsistent since then as well. I believe it was the end of May. He started to have those inconsistencies early June. And really just a better month overall for Jesus Luzardo. It's great to see, especially winding down here in the end of the regular season, heading into the final month and then into the playoffs. He might be a guy that might have to be in their starting rotation come playoff time with Zach Wheeler out. We'll see. If not, he could be a guy that could be pitching out of the bullpen. We'll see. Again, better month of August for Luzardo. He was 3-1 with a 3.12 ERA, 42 strikeouts through 6 starts in the month of August. He had a 5.56 ERA back in the month of May. Again, I said that's kind of where he started to blow up there for the Phillies after a very good, strong start to the season. A 5.40 ERA back in June and a 5.26 ERA in the month of July. So down to 3.12 for the month of August. Hopefully that can get even better here in September in this final month and carry right over into October. But again, shout out to Luzardo with those 2 big strikeouts in the 5th inning, and shout out for just a very good game that the Phillies really should have won. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Phillies Daily. Tough loss yesterday, right back at it tonight on Labor Day. Hope you guys had a great Labor Day weekend, whatever you did, relaxing, enjoyed it. Hopefully it was safe as well. Hopefully you guys still enjoy it today, whatever you have going on as well. Again, tough loss yesterday. Right back at it in Milwaukee. Taijuan Walker on the mound, trying to get this series started on the right foot. Off tomorrow, and then back at it Wednesday, Thursday to finish up that 3-game series against the Brewers. Going to be a tough one, but the Phillies need to put that loss last night on Sunday Night Baseball in the rearview mirror and go on and play their best baseball against one of the best teams here with the Brewers. Again, thank you guys for watching, and as always, go Phils.